Daddy, are we allowed to be here? Sawyer Briggs looked down at his 4-year-old daughter, Clementine, and felt the question land somewhere honest. She was wearing her best dress, the yellow one with the small white buttons, and her hair was in 2 uneven braids that he had done himself, twice, because the first attempt had made her laugh and say they looked like a pretzel. She was holding his hand with both of hers, the way she did when she was excited and nervous at the same time. He looked up at the building, floor-to-ceiling glass, warm golden light spilling through every window, a man in a dark jacket standing at the entrance holding a small silver tray, music drifting out like it belonged to a different world. Sawyer had thought this was the community arts fundraiser his co-worker Dennis had told him about. Family-friendly, Dennis had said. Casual. Bring Clemmy, she'd love it. He'd written the address on a gas station receipt, and apparently misread one digit, because this was very clearly not a casual community fundraiser. This was something with candles and string quartets, and women in dresses that cost more than his monthly rent. He almost turned around. He had one hand already moving toward Clementine to steer her gently back to the car. Then Clementine said, wide-eyed and certain, "Daddy, I can smell chocolate from here. We have to go in." He laughed, a real one, surprised out of him, and something in that laugh made the doorman look over and smile. "Evening," the man said. "You're welcome inside." Sawyer Briggs was 33 years old. He worked as an HVAC technician for a mid-sized company in Delwood, Ohio, the kind of job that kept the lights on and left his hands rough and his back sore, and gave him deep satisfaction and a quiet, uncelebrated way. His wife Nadine had passed 2 years ago from an illness that moved faster than any of them had expected. He had been raising Clementine alone since, and he had learned in those 2 years that fatherhood without a partner was like navigating by stars he were still learning to name. Some nights he got it right. Some nights Clementine ate cereal for dinner and fell asleep in her shoes, and he sat on the kitchen floor afterward and felt the full weight of everything. But he got up every morning. That was the thing about Sawyer Briggs. He always got up. Inside, the party was warm and luminous. Long tables draped in ivory linen, tall flower arrangements, guests in evening wear holding glasses and speaking in the measured tones of people accustomed to rooms like this. Sawyer stood near the entrance with Clementine's hand in his, wearing his clean gray button-down, the nicest thing he owned, and felt the gap between his world and this one as a physical sensation, like a temperature change. Clementine felt none of it. She was already pointing at the dessert table. The host of the evening was a woman named Audra Finch. She was 29 years old and had built her company, a sustainable materials firm she'd started at 24, into something that now operated in 11 states. She was polished and capable, and had learned to run a room the way some people learn to play an instrument, through discipline and repetition until it felt natural. But she had also in recent months been carrying something quiet and heavy, a board restructuring, a senior hire who had turned out to be dishonest, a loneliness she didn't discuss because she'd spent so long building a version of herself that didn't need to. She was crossing the room when she saw them, a man in a gray shirt holding the hand of a small girl in a yellow dress, both of them standing just inside the entrance, looking simultaneously out of place and completely unbothered by it. The little girl was studying the dessert table with the focused intensity of a scientist.
Audra didn't hesitate. She walked over. "I don't think we've met," she said, and her voice was warm rather than formal. "I'm Audra. This is my event." Sawyer straightened slightly. "I'm so sorry. I had the wrong address. We were looking for a community fundraiser and I misread the street number. We were just about to leave." Audra looked at Clementine, who had now turned and was looking up at her with absolute directness. "Your dress is really sparkly," Clementine said. "I like it a lot." Audra smiled. "A real one, unexpected. I like yours too. Yellow is my favorite color." Clementine's eyes went wide. "Mine too." Audra looked back at Sawyer. "Please stay," she said simply. "There's more than enough food, the music is good, and honestly," she paused, something shifting slightly in her expression, "this party could use a little yellow." They stayed. What unfolded over the next 2 hours was quiet and unplanned, and exactly the kind of thing neither of them had known they needed. Clementine charmed every person in the room with a completeness that Sawyer found both humbling and deeply familiar. She had her mother's way of making people feel noticed. Audra moved through the event with her usual precision, but kept finding reasons to drift back toward the corner where Sawyer stood nursing a sparkling water and watching his daughter explain something very important to a woman in a blue gown. They talked between the duties of the evening, not about business or credentials or the usual architecture of first conversations between people from different worlds. They talked about small things, the particular difficulty of braiding a 4-year-old's hair, the way Ohio winters had a specific kind of gray that was different from any other gray, the fact that Audra had taught herself to cook during a long, lonely winter and had become surprisingly good at it, and that Sawyer had once tried to make Clementine a birthday cake, and it had come out looking, as Clementine described it, like a very sad volcano. He laughed telling her that story. She laughed hearing it, and in the laughing, something careful in both of them softened. Later, when Clementine had fallen asleep against Sawyer's arm in a corner chair, her yellow dress slightly wrinkled, a small chocolate smear near her chin, Audra sat down beside them. The party was winding down. The string quartet had shifted to something slower and quieter. "Can I ask you something?" Audra said. "Sure," Sawyer said. "How do you do it, the getting up every day part, after losing someone?" He was quiet for a moment. He looked at Clementine, her small chest rising and falling, her face completely at peace. "She's the reason," he said. "But also," he paused, searching for it honestly, "I think grief teaches you that the days don't wait, and eventually you stop wanting them to." Audra was quiet. "Then, I haven't lost someone the way you have, but I've been really alone in a room full of people for a long time, and I'd stopped expecting a random Tuesday to feel like anything." He glanced at her. "Is that what today is? A random Tuesday?" She smiled. "It was supposed to be." What Sawyer didn't know, what he would only learn weeks later, was that the senior hire who had betrayed Audra's company had been her HVAC contractor, a man who had overbilled by tens of thousands and redirected vendor payments. The board had been pressing her to find a trustworthy vendor urgently. When Audra looked into Sawyer's company the following week, she found a spotless reputation, fair pricing, and a decade of integrity. She hired them for her 3 facilities. And then, because she was meticulous, but also because she was honest with herself about her reasons, she called Sawyer personally to tell him.
"I need a reliable contractor," she said on the phone. "But I also," a pause, small and real, "wanted to say that Clementine left a yellow ribbon on my entry table, and I've been looking at it every morning." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "She leaves things places. I think she does it on purpose." "Smart girl," Audra said. "She is," he said, and the warmth in his voice was something she held for the rest of the day. They built something slowly from there, a professional relationship that carried underneath it the careful and unhurried growth of 2 people who had both learned the cost of taking things for granted. No rushing, no pretending, just the gradual, honest accumulation of small moments, a work meeting that ran long because the conversation mattered, an afternoon when Clementine informed Audra that she had decided they were friends now, and that was final. Some doors open because you plan them. Some open because you misread a gas station receipt and your 4-year-old smells chocolate and pulls you forward before you can turn back. The best ones are usually the second kind. Kindness doesn't check your credentials at the door. It doesn't ask what you're wearing or whether you belong in the room. It simply says, "Stay. There's more than enough." And in that single generous invitation, it changes everything. A man in a great shirt, a girl in a yellow dress, a door that was never supposed to open for them, and a woman on the other side who had, without knowing it, been waiting. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.